great too. Great summer day in Canada. You know, it's great to have you, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir de vous accueillir ici aujourd'hui pour première rencontre du G7. So, good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to be with all of you. Welcome to Canada. For those who travel from afar, this is going to be our very first press conference, and I have the privilege and the honor to be with Sergei Marchenko, my dear colleague from Ukraine. We had the chance to meet earlier today, and I think it is very telling to the world that we have our Ukrainian friend with us for the G7 summit. You know, it sends a strong message to the world that we are, all of us, recommitting to support Ukraine. We're going to hold Russia to account. And we're also going to talk about what we're going to be doing in terms of reconstruction. You know, the discussion we had at the international level, there's a moral imperative for all of us to support our Ukrainian friend in reconstruction. They fought for democracy, not only for them, but for the world. And we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with our Ukrainian friend to make sure that we bring an end to this conflict, but at the same time that we look forward in reconstruction. So this morning I had the privilege with Sergei to meet a number of pension funds and a number of very important investors to look at what's going to come next. You may have seen the report from the IMF that the reconstruction effort in Ukraine is going to be north of $500 billion US dollar over a decade in order to rebuild this country, build back better together. And today was a moment that we could share. There's a lot that we could do together. We talked about energy infrastructure. We talked about infrastructure like roads, ports, railway. We talked about defense technologies. We talked about energy. You know, Canada is an energy superpower. So what we can do with them with respect to hydro, to nuclear energy, also to oil and gas, and what we can bring together to this table. So it was a very interesting moment. We talked also how we could work together eventually to share best practices in building a pension system in Ukraine. And so therefore, we're going to continue that. You know, there's another big meeting coming in Rome in July, and we're going to be hosting a dinner, myself and the finance minister, with a number of colleagues from around the world, investors, business people. People are going to be making sure that we build a bridge that we need between the private sector, the public sector, the international financial organization. So with that, I'll leave the floor to my dear friend Sergei. Welcome to Canada. Bienvenue au Canada. It's a real honor to start this G7 meeting side by side with my Ukrainian colleague. And on behalf of all of us in the world and your G7 colleagues, thank you for fighting for democracy. Thank you for fighting for dignity. And you can rest assured that we are all committed to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, my friend. So the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me admit that we are grateful for the Canadian government, the support for the providing for Ukraine during this very harsh year for Ukraine during the war. Canada provide Ukraine quite significant amount of support, and the invitation to be here, it's a great honor for us because it helps us to better provide the necessary information about situation on the ground, to understand how we can collectively provide necessary action with G7 countries for support of Ukraine, for reconstruction of Ukraine, for better future of Ukraine. And we are grateful for my colleagues François-Philippe for inviting me to be here. You know, it's again and again remembering that Ukraine's war is not only about suffering of Ukraine's people, it's suffering of all people which is eager to support Ukraine this time. And specifically right now, during G7 ministerial meetings, we will be able to discuss all necessary and critical issues which are related to Ukraine reconstruction and rebuilding. Well, I hope we have a very productive discussion during the next several days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be happy to take your question, and I think we're going to start there.
Exactly. Yeah. So we will do one question, one follow-up. Please state your name, your media, and your country. Donc, on va maintenant commencer la période de questions.
I think I know his country, by the way. I think this guy.
Thank you, Mr. Champagne, for taking our questions, and thank you for your time. I'm Pramit Mukherjee from Reuters, based in Ottawa. I wanted to ask you that what are the key objectives that are top of your mind, which you achieved, then at the end of these 2-3 days, you can say that these meetings were a success?
Well, I think this is a very consequential moment for the G7 and the world. Our role is to restore stability and growth. And I would say those are the two main objectives. We're celebrating 50 years of the G7. For those who have a memory, the G7 meeting started in 1975 in France. And now Canada holds the presidency for the G7. So this meeting is happening on the 50th anniversary. So for me, it's going back to basics, you know, making sure that together we are the voice of the largest economy in the world. And I think to deliver for the citizens that we represent, our mission is really about restoring stability and growth. We're going to be talking about a number of things. You may have seen the agenda is it's a very ambitious agenda. We want to discuss, this is a follow-up to the great work that were done by Italian friends under their presidency and the work we did together in Washington just a few weeks ago. And at the same time, this is about leadership. This is Canada setting the global agenda with our colleagues to make sure that we deliver for our citizens. And I very much look forward for the discussion over the next few days.
Mr. Champagne, we are in a world which is fragmenting because of the trade policies by US, because of a lot of other things that US's policies towards Ukraine and its relationship with Russia. As the chair of G7 finance leaders, what will be your main message to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent?
Well, I mean, we're delighted that Secretary Bessent is with us in Banff. We're delighted that we have the chairman of the Federal Reserve, which are with us. Their voice really matters. We're going to continue to engage in a very constructive discussion, as we did when we were in Washington just a few weeks ago. There's big things that we need to do together. We've been talking about overcapacity. We've been talking about non-market practices. And I can tell you, colleagues, we are in touch on a very regular basis. And we want to tackle the big things. We talk about financial crime to growth, to prosperity. And that's why I said this is a G7 meeting of going back to basics, you know, what the G7 was meant for. And I very much look forward to the contribution of Secretary Bessent. All the colleagues are very eager to meet with him and to really have a chance to discuss, frankly, openly, how we can work together, how we can be united and send a strong message to the world.
But not tariffs.
Well, listen, we always talk about the issues that are front and center. There's no doubt that, like I said, we are united. That's the outcome when we came out of the meeting we had in Washington. But there was always tension around tariffs, as you would expect. But at the same time, there's a lot we can achieve together. There's a lot that we are looking to coordinate our actions and really tackle some of the big issues around overcapacity, non-market practices, financial crime. So the spirit around the table is constructive. The spirit around the table is action. The spirit around the table is to send a strong message to the world, and that's what is going to drive us over the next few days.
And as a follow-up, is a discussion of a lower price cap on Russian oil part of the talks taking place this week? And Mr. Champagne, would you support exploring that measure or any additional sanctions on Putin?
Maybe Sergei wanted to say something on that.
Of course, for us, it was a good idea to impose caps on oil price, and right now it's a good chance to revise this existing price cap, and it's our position. We would like to reiterate that it's a good time to make it lower, to make Russia economy suffer, because they use this money for military needs, and that's why it's important to impose stricter sanctions on Russia.
Next question.
Paul Vieira, Wall Street Journal.
How are you doing, sir?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Maybe just as a follow-up on that question, is there going to be will either you, Mr. Marchenko, or other G7 members will you talk to Mr. Bessent about reimposing tariffs on Russia?
During our meetings, during these days, we will find a chance to reiterate our position towards sanctions on Russia, and we would like these sanctions will be stronger because it's only possible way how to impose definitely necessary sanctions on Russia for them to make necessary agreements when we have discussions related to peace.
Okay. As a follow-up, Mr. Champagne, you talked about that there's been tension about trade, and you say that this G7 is about going back to basics. But so if we're going back to basics, the business community would argue that we need more predictability, more certainty. Won't going back to basics then involve a deep discussion and potentially tense discussion about trade policy?
Well, I mean, that's why I say we need to go back to the basic and restore stability and focus on growth. I agree with you. Stability, predictability, rule of law are the fundamental ingredients to prosperity, and so therefore we're going to be talking about that. But there's a lot for us to talk about. Clearly we have addressed these issues last time we met in Washington, and I think the message from colleagues is pretty clear: is that a free and fair and a rule-based multilateral trading system is a system in which we all win. And therefore, we certainly want to provide stability to consumers. We certainly want to provide stability to investors. We certainly want to provide stability to businesses. And therefore, that's why, for me, restoring stability, focusing on growth is going back to basic. Because if you look at the G7 in its history, it's always about driving prosperity around the world on a macro level. So that's why these discussions at this particular moment in time are crucial for the world economy. And I think the world is going to be watching the discussions we have, but also the actions and the outcome that come from the meeting here in Banff in Canada.